If you just keep quiet a minute, I'll tell you.
You gotta turn up now. Well, what are you doing here?
If you'll just stop screaming at her, she'll explain, Dad. Surprise!
Seeing Hayley Mills next to herself did more than surprise her on-screen parents. It unveiled groundbreaking visual effects that were both astonishing and invisible.
You're not sisters. I've never seen her before in my life.
They are, aren't they?
No, ma'am, just lookalikes.
An amazing resemblance.
What Walt wanted was that you were not aware of the special effects. One of his common things was, he said, people won't notice that we didn't quite get what we wanted, but they're suddenly going to be back in the theater. They're going to notice the people sitting around them. That's what happens, and I don't want that to happen in my pictures.
To make sure it didn't, Walt turned to UB Iwerks. UB broke new ground in animation with the first sketches of Mickey Mouse and pioneered photographic techniques that helped make the screen as broad as our imagination.
Here's a man who never even finished high school, and yet he never quit studying. I mean, he read on and on and on, and anything that challenged him, he then studied it and became an expert on it.
UB was considered the top photographic effects man at the studio, and whenever any new challenge came into Walt's lap, he would always look to UB to solve it.
Do you want to meet Father? And I'm just dying to know Mother. Well, what if... Oh, my gosh! She seemed to be so scary that we might be able to pull it off.
Before the picture ever started, they had a board up in front of them with storyboards, sketches of each scene, and both Walt and David would act out the parts that were being portrayed, scene by scene by scene.
I had no idea how to shoot twins when I came on this show, but there's a marvelous camera department at Disney's, and the cameraman knew all about it, so I just relaxed and said, these are going to be twins, and she's going to be here, and she's going to be here. He said, no problem. They would continuously turn to UB and say, now, UB, is this possible? And I knew he eventually was going to turn to me and say, okay, Bob, now I said we could do it, so we do it.
The primary visual effect technique that UB used to place Hayley Mills on screen with herself is known as a split screen.
Okay.
We would shoot the scene twice. We would shoot it, and we would have an actress double standing where the other twin would normally be standing.
And then we'd change clothes and switch wigs and try not to move any of the furniture around. And then you'd film the other part of the screen.
The camera was really secured so that even though the two scenes were shot 20 minutes apart, everything was still exactly the same. The camera hadn't moved, and the set hadn't moved, and the lights hadn't moved.
The two strips of film were then rephotographed, one frame at a time, in a device called an optical printer.
What we would do on the optical printer is we would shoot two different exposures. One exposure would be the girl on the left with a matte blacking out the right side so no light hit the film. And then we would back the camera film back, and then we would shoot a second exposure on the same film with the matte on the left side. And now what you have is a complete scene.
It's got to be done methodically. Remember the key, recollection and memory. Get her talking about how she and Daddy first met and their first date. Find out about that first date.
To avoid a visible line between the two Haleys, splits were concealed by background elements such as tent poles, door frames, or bedposts.
And if that edge doesn't go right exactly together, it's going to be a giveaway. So if there was anything in the scene where we could make the split come down the edge of a picture and then maybe go over the top of her head, we took advantage of that, but we could throw that just slightly out of focus so it was a soft edge, so it wasn't just a sharp line right down through the middle of a sky or the middle of a living room wall.
Another key to hiding the split was making sure that each Hayley stayed on her own side.
We would have footprints drawn on the floor of the set, and we would rehearse it on and make sure that she was going to be able to do all of her actions and stay behind the line.
Let's get together right away. We'll be having twice the fun.
and we could move the split screen. Say, as one of the girls would run out of the scene, and then the other one would run out following her, we would move the mat across just behind the girl running out so that there was room for the girl following her.
Hayley Mills, I understand, was very keen on exactly how to act and where to position herself, and she not only had to look screen right, but she had to immediately turn around and look screen left and interact with her imaginary self.
I was having to work with a photographic double and then switch and then play the part that I'd just done and work again with my photographic double. Very, very well played by Susan Henning.
The actress really has to sell it. Her eyes would have to be looking in a spot that would be right in line. That was always a challenge to make it work. And that's why we used this double, because then she was really looking at what is herself in the final scene.
I actually learned the whole script, both Susan and Sharon parts, and we would alternate positions at different times. The funny part, my birth name being Susan, and the two characters were Susan and Sharon. And then, of course, Susan and Sharon in the movie switch places. So oftentimes it would be Susan playing Susan, who's playing Sharon, and Hayley playing Sharon, who's playing Susan, and poor David would get, now who are we now, and what is she? Who are you now? And Susan, are you Susan playing Sharon?
Oh my gosh, I just had the craziest dream. Oh my goodness. What is it? You and I were marching on real slow, sort of funny like, in organdy dresses. And there was music coming from someplace.
In the wedding scene, they were walking down this path together. Hayley Mills walked down one side of the walk, and then she went back and came down the other side of the walk. They had to walk really straight so they couldn't move through the split because they're walking right next to each other. And the metronome was beating, and on a certain beat, the girl on the left would smile or turn and look at her sister on the other side. And then when she came down as the girl on the other side, we had the same metronome timing. And as a result, when we put the two of them together, they both turned and looked at each other.
Split screens provided the visual payoffs that convinced audiences there were two Hayleys. But many scenes were filmed without visual effects.
When you saw the two of them talking, and there would be a shoulder or side view or a three-quarter, that other twin was myself.
Over the shoulder shot is the back of one girl's head shooting at Hayley Mills, and when we came around, we would reverse the positions of the two girls.
And they would do that in every case they could, because they didn't want to have to optically combine them any more than they had to.
The camp scene where we got to do the string and the honey, that went on for days, because there would be parts where I was in the bed and Hayley was doing the honey and the string on me, and then there would be parts when she was in the bed, and you know whatever you did has to be exactly matched when we'd switch places.
For Susan Henning, her biggest challenge was making sure that she wouldn't be recognized on screen.
You'll just see me move to make sure that I'm never straight within the camera. And it was tough in a way to get used to. It's kind of a funny feeling. Here you're doing a movie and yet don't let the camera see you.
In some shots, actually, if you're quick, you can see her whole face. She turns and you can see quite clearly that it's not me.
Once you get cued in, the kids, my children, have fun. There's Mommy. Is that you, Mommy? You just think whenever there's two, it's Hayley, and whenever there's a three-quarter or intermixing between, one is me.
When shots of Hayley and her double were interwoven with Ub Iwerks split-screen effects, it became easy for audiences to forget that there is only one Hayley Mills.
I mean, this was a challenge like had never been done. And when we finished, the feeling was just exultation. It worked, because we were terrified all the way through the picture that it wasn't going to work.
It's amazing.